Hello YouTube, it's Frenzy Unit here with another video. It's been a little while and I seem to have had an influx of computers that have either been gifted to me or have been an extremely cheap price. So we will get around to getting videos of all of these things up. In a previous video I did mention that I was going to do a video on an iBook G3 that I'd swapped out. Unfortunately, that machine is no longer in my hands. I was made an offer that I could not refuse. That offer being over the £100 mark. So unfortunately guys, the iBook video will not be coming because I don't have that with me anymore. However, I have an exciting new project. Now some of you may remember from the last video that I posted up, I had an Intel Pentium II machine that I was going to kit out as a retro gaming machine, word processor, etc. Unfortunately, the motherboard on that machine seemed to have a bit of an issue, and that issue simply seemed to be fatigue in old age. The machine would randomly power itself down. When it went onto standby, it wouldn't come out of standby. There was issues with it turning itself back on. There was all sorts of problems. So I've tested the power supply, RAM, etc. all individually. Everything's fine. The only thing that has failed is the motherboard. So I'm not going to be doing that. However, I have been gifted something which I know works and which I'm going to get set up for a quick demonstration with you guys. And that is one of these. This, if I'm just going to pick that up and put it in a more convenient location, is a Gigabyte GA-5AA. And, as some may see, it is a BabyAT board. Now the thing that makes this extremely interesting is the fact that it can take up to 768 meg of SD RAM. I have had a stick of 128 meg ECC RAM in there, and it has seen it. So I might potentially be using error correcting stuff. It is ATX compatible from what I gather, as it does have the 20 pin ATX power connector on there. But some other interesting features of the machine is the fact that we obviously have our IDE channels and whatnot, but to be honest, I'm only going to be using one of those, which I'll explain in a moment. It has an AGP slot on there. We've got 3 PCIs and 2 ISA slots. Now, what I'm going to be doing is this. I am going to be creating myself a BabyAT word processor and gaming machine. Finally. The system is not Intel based, although it is a socket 7. It's actually got a 500 MHz AMD K6 II processor in there. Now, I'm pretty pleased about that because it's a little bit higher in terms of processing power, but I actually really like the AMD K6. I'm probably really irrational, but I like it. It's got an ALI chipset on there, and that's an M1542A1. The BIOS is an AMI BIOS. Obviously there is no onboard sound. It's not USB compliant, although I do have a USB 2.0 card that is backwards compatible for the PCI slots, so that will be going in there. But why have I got this big white box in front of me here? Well, in that machine there is some goodies, and to be quite honest, that machine it's alright. It's not brilliant, but it'll do. The first thing that's getting robbed is that 5¼ inch zip drive up there. I'm having that. I'll just pop the sides off here, put the camera down. I will not be using this case. I am actually buying a brand new case with some brand new period correct stickers as well, genuine ones at that. Anyway, inside this machine we have got to start off with an AMI series 574 RAID card sat there. I'm going to be using that. I have got some adapters for my SCSI 3 compact hard drives. and those are 10,000 RPM drives, and those two will be going as one primary hard drive, and the other one will be a storage drive for my new build. As I said before, the only IDE controller that's going to get used will be the primary IDE controller on this board, and all that will be used simply is for a CD-ROM drive. This machine's not bad. I mean, I can't complain about it. It's fully working. It's got a gig of RAM on board. It's one of those boards that was in between the SD and DDR RAM changeover times. It's got the option to either use SD or DDR, and at the moment it's got a gig of DDR in there. I mean, this machine will not be, I mean, it's not going to get broken up or anything. It's got a 200 gig IDE hard drive in there with some variation of Linux. I don't remember what it is, but there's some variation of Linux on there. The only thing really that I'm going to have out of here is going to be the SCSI controller card and the two SCSI hard drives. Back onto this machine anyway. As some of you may see, the cooler on it is a little extreme, and it's silent as well due to there being no fan. Now, this is a socket 7 machine. However, I have actually robbed one of the heat sinks from my old Dell 2500 server. Now, that is a heatsink from a PGA 370 Intel socket. However, it seems to fit a socket 7 quite well. In fact, if anything, it's not moving at all, and there is full and proper contact on the processor there as well. So I'm going to be leaving that on, I think, as I'm expecting a little bit more from that heatsink than I would be from that. So that's not going back on, or at least I'm going to check out the thermals anyway before I make an ultimate decision. Talking about the server, for those who have private messaged me and asked, unfortunately my Dell PowerEdge 2500 is no more at all. Here is the remnants of, namely just the motherboard. I've got a few spares in there, VRMs and RAID keys and heat sinks and whatnot. Still a fully working board. I didn't have the time to sit and play with it anymore. It wasn't causing me any issues, but it sure as hell wasn't fast. And to be honest, I need a faster server. So the machine has been broken up for parts. Yeah, there's still a gig of RAM on there. There's still the processors to sell. The two 1 gig Pentium II Xeons, and other than that, there's a few chassis bits knocking about in the understairs cupboard, but other than that, that machine is completely retired. So the 2500 gone. So that's the 2500 server business anyway. I'll just show you very quickly before we have a look at my BabyAT up and running. Well, up and running as well as it can be anyway. Yes, that is an eMac. Yes, I will probably do a video on that at some point. And yes, that is a maxed out 1.42 gig G4 model as well. But there's the server for anyone who doesn't know. It's a Dell Dimension 3100C. Yes, that is a floppy drive. Yes, I do use it very regular. But there it is, sat up there, headless, doing what it needs to do, permanently on. Very happy with it. So let's have a little look at this BabyAT. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get myself a keyboard, power supply and whatnot, and we'll fire it up, check out the BIOS, and then we'll call this video quits at the end. Okay, so we're back, and we're ready to start having a little look at the BIOS on this machine. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to obviously turn it on without the aid of a power switch. For those who don't know, all that you have to do is locate the positive and negative pins for the on switch and bridge them with something metal. My weapon of choice, a flat blade screwdriver. If you don't know what you're doing, do not try this at home. It's dangerous. So, let's just make sure that power switch is on, which it is. And I'm, for the sake of any legal issues, I'm not actually going to show you switching it on. But it's now on. It's got a temporary video card. I won't be using that video card. Not to mention it's incredibly noisy, if you can hear that. It is an NVIDIA graphic card of some nature, FX 5200 I think. So here's the machine, she's starting up. And we're going to the BIOS. Hopefully my camera is going to sort itself out at some point. There we are. Right, now this is going to be a little bit difficult with one hand, but unfortunately my tripod seems to have gone missing. So have a look at the standard CMOS setup, and straight away, there we go, the CMOS battery is dead, but I'd kind of expect that on a machine that's like nearly 20 years old. For some reason it says that it has a CD-ROM installed. Funnily enough, I don't think that that is the case, but never mind. The BIOS will get cleared when I put the new battery in anyway, and I set this up properly for the first time. So that's that. BIOS features, it's just your standard first, second, third, fourth boot device. Try the boot devices, whether you've got PS2 mouse attached, etc. Quick boot apparently is disabled, so I would assume that quick boot would skip the memory check. Can't see anything else otherwise about memory check. That's that. Chipset features. USB function is enabled, so without looking at the minute, and perhaps one of them controllers does actually control USB, but I seriously doubt it. I think one of those COM ports there is for either a serial add-on or a PS2 add-on, but I could be wrong. I'll have a little look at some point. Power management, obviously there's not a great deal in there, I suppose. PNP PCI configuration, there isn't going to be a lot in there either that's going to tell us much about the machine. Load BIOS defaults, setup defaults, integrated peripherals, onboard serial port 1 and 2, so that'll be those two controllers behind the floppy controller on the back of the board there. Onboard parallel port as well, which I'll probably end up using all three of those at some point, and that's about it. I'm a little annoyed that it doesn't actually tell you anywhere in the BIOS what the current specification of the machine actually is. That's the whole intention of me putting this together, so you guys could see. But it's not there. So for now, you'll have to take my word for it that it has got 256 meg of RAM at the moment and a 500 MHz K3. There will be lots of updating going on in regards to this machine, as I will be using it very, very regular for all sorts of weird and wonderful wacky things, and I would have thought at some point it will probably get used as a paperweight as well, even though I'm going to be spending hard-earned money on the machine, but hey ho, there you go. But for now, it's pretty much what I was looking for. I mean, I was looking for a machine that was a bit older, sort of, you know, IBM PS2 era kind of machine, but to be honest, this will do. All I want it for is a little bit of programming, playing about with a few DOS games. That's about it, but I will make it pretty high spec. So that's the machine. There will be lots of updates as soon as some bits get here from an online auction site, and I will keep you guys updated. Thanks very much for watching, and subscribe, comment, etc. Feel free to get in touch.